that point over there, that's Clark's Point. Bay Head is the land in behind over there. It's the first thing I look at, that bay, every morning. That bay has been the one truly consistent thing every day, looking out at that bay. And it's never been the same twice. It always has a special, unique beauty that I see in it. Good place, good place. Welcome to the bay here. This is McNabb's Bay, or the Malagash Basin. It's Canada's first oyster farm. Dates back to 1866 when a fellow by the name of Alexander McFarland. And he seen something down in the US. He seen them selling oysters. They were using the railroad and they were shipping the oysters all over the place. McFarland knew that Canada was going to be formed and we were going to have a railway. So he comes back and he gets something that never happened. He gets a lease of the entire bay. McNabb didn't want to take it on himself, so he said, I'd like to involve my best friend. And his best friend was Stephen Purdy, my great-great-grandfather. Well, the family had been involved in oysters right from the very beginning. So historically, I had heard stories about it. They would go out there in rowboats. They would load the oysters into tubs, put them into the rowboats, row the boats to areas where the water was deeper, and they would spread that all over the bottom, and that was how they got their oysters to grow. We still do that today, 150 years later, and it's the basis of everything here. The only difference now between then and now is that we use our harvesting system out there, so that makes our harvesting easier, and that's the basis of how it works here. Most mornings when I wake up, right from the time I was a little kid, my room looked towards the bay, and I'd get up first thing and I'd look at the bay, and it's always the first thing I do. When my legs grew long enough when I was a kid, I headed for the bay. My mother cut me off the first time, so then I figured, well, I'd have to go over in the woods and they wouldn't see me, so I snuck around that way. My uncle gave me a boat when I was 11, so I didn't drown myself in the bay, and I've been at it ever since. So when I got so I could make a living here, it was even better. I needed something to relax, and I always thought if you were going to relax, it'd be a good idea to make money while you were doing it. So I started out with a license to recreationally fish oysters, because that was relaxing and I loved oysters. So then I had the opportunity to move that to a commercial license. So I got commercial oyster license and started doing that just as a hobby because it relaxed me. And so, you know, I knew the industry. Is what basically happened. After I got the oysters growing here, I needed to come up with a way of harvesting a lot of them. I did a real good job of growing them, but I couldn't make money harvesting them. I had to hire too many people and wages were too high. So I got to work looking for a method, and I built this 25 years ago. Oyster farming is like a lot of things. It can be as simple as you want to make it, or it can get as complicated as you want, where you grow oysters in an area where they really want to grow, and you use artificial systems. If you have the right system, now ours is all based on working in harmony with the bay out there. We never over-harvest because we need to keep that spawning mass there in the bay to maintain what the cycle is going on. Morgan, you want to fire her up? You have a sled that slides along the bottom. There's hose that brings water from the water pump down to a manifold on the sled. So your water comes out on an angle, hits the bottom, causes a turbulence, which moves the oysters and the shellfish back to a collection head.
Mary Beth, I'll get you out and get you away from here. Like I was standing out of fresh, we never left a fear. But if you can promise me you'll go looking out no more. Get in, look at your horn, look you can go, yeah.
And onto a flat wire belt chain, and that just brings it up to the surface where you can pick them off as frantically as possible. It's sort of like me, it's stupid, it works. We harvest until we get how much we want for that particular day. The service boat will bring the oysters down. That's the way the stuff comes in off the harvester. There's always a few that are clumped together that we have to take apart.
Well, I do just about everything except for the actual harvesting on the barge.
One of you guys want to explain out what you're doing here?
Well, I'm basically sizing the quahogs, sorting them out of the, they come in with the oysters and the quahogs are together, so I take them out and size them into small, medium, and large. Well, we met through his cousin, who was one of my best friends in Oxford, and we just hit it off, you would say.
What am I forgetting? Am I forgetting anything? Oh yeah, I got myself another pair of gloves. They were right there. Thank you. The hand from behind the door. If I had my way, I would never charge for an oyster, because in the native culture, an oyster was something that was special in the culture and something to be shared at a party or a gathering or a get-together. Every week we post a little recipe on our website. So this one here, the recipe this week is oyster stew. Being practical, and thank goodness I have a wife that's a lot more practical than me, and a daughter that's more practical than I am. They're able to do it in such a way that I make money and they can keep me going doing the silly things. My greatest joy is when there's myself and when Rachel, or any of my children, when we're all together doing something on the family farm or in business, whatever they're in. There's always been 3 generations. It's just something that's a part of our heritage or our DNA.
I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious.
Well, I wake up in the morning. I feel the way I did when I was 19 or 20. Then I try to move. The reality comes home to me. But I have so much to look forward to when I drag myself out here and look out the window at the bay. I can go out on the bay, I can harvest. There's always something there that brings me close to nature.
Jeez, this is me.
There always has been a relationship between myself and the land and the creatures of the ocean and of the forest. It's just a feeling, and it keeps me going.
Sharpest words wanna cut me down. I'm gonna send a flood, I'm gonna drown them out.
If you have a dream, if there's something you want to do, don't be afraid to do it, because life is really short. And when we get through it. There's nothing wrong with saying I failed at something. But if you didn't try it, you never know. Follow your heart, man. Follow your heart.